where we get this fucking hoodie, bro? I need one.
As soon as he walked in,
I haven't worn this hoodie yet. This is the first time I've ever worn it. Online, I think I stole it from somebody else's. Like, you know how Etsy or whatever steals it, like the original content.
Yeah.
So I got this. I was like, this is the fucking. Oh, I see the back of the shit.
Yeah, let's see. Oh, the candy coated.
Yeah, it's like Sherwin-Williams with the. Oh.
Yeah, you're good. That shit's fire, bro. I like that a lot, man. With Mike Jones's number on it too, dog.
oh shit, that is his number, ain't it?
281-80-8004. Yeah, I like y'all seen Paul Wall's like been like having a comeback, you know?
Yeah,
like,
especially with Houston. Before they got not blown out, but beat. But especially with the Texans making a move in the playoffs. Yeah, he's been all.
Yeah, I saw him, Mike Jones, and Slim Thug performed at halftime at their home game or whatever.
You know who they owe that to? That white dude. That white dude on TikTok that started, who was like, they were like, oh, how do you get out of the hood? And then the dude goes like, I ain't never been to the hood, but I'm good with Mike Jones. And he starts rapping the whole thing.
Oh, yeah.
Remember? And then all of a sudden it became like a thing where like it was on TikTok all the time.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden everybody's listening to Still Tippin' again.
Right. It's crazy because like all the old school people, like all it takes is for your shit to get on a trend.
Yeah.
And
I
then
never
all of a
stopped
sudden,
listening to Still Tippin'. I've always loved that.
No,
song,
but like
dude.
the TikTok thing, bro. Like, you know, it could just be some random Eminem song, and it could be like just a line out of it that somebody uses for a sound, and then that sound blows up, and then all of a sudden you've got, you know, Eminem wakes up and he's got a royalty check for 10 grand because his song got used 5 million times
TikTok,
on some
dude.
trend. You know
TikTok
what I'm saying?
TikTok is taking over, man.
Yeah, it really is.
Cause I was on Instagram the other day, and I don't even fuck with Instagram like that. And I was like, man, let's see what's going on with this shit. And I started scrolling through it, and I was actually checking your shit out, and I was like, man, let me just go down a little rabbit hole with some reels and shit. And I was like, oh, this shit's almost just like TikTok. They pretty much mimic each other. Some of the same videos.
So you do TikTok and not Instagram?
Well, I don't post anything on anything. So I literally just kill time.
I have no idea
Just kill time.
how to work TikTok, but my wife just watches the fuck out of that shit. She's like, and then she'll swipe through it so fast, and I'm like, hold on, we don't even know what was gonna happen.
Yeah.
She's like, no, I already knew it was gonna suck. And like,
Well,
she's
you got
so
10
concerned
seconds.
that if she watches it too long, it'll fuck up her algorithm.
Yeah.
That she'll be on some like, so I don't even like go down the Instagram wormhole. I don't even do any of that stuff. Mm-hmm. I do YouTube Shorts, and that's about it.
Yeah. It's everybody's mimicking each other with that shit. My problem with Instagram is the first time I opened that shit, because I don't know how to. There's all these buttons on the bottom and shit. I sound like such an old dude, but I'm going through it and I get to the reels and I'm like, all right, let me see what's going on. It's like instant, just like half naked girls. And I'm like, come the fuck out of here, dude. And I scroll, another half naked bitch. I'm like, Jesus Christ, what the fuck, dude? Like, I just opened this shit. There's no way it knows my algorithm, and I've never been on this shit.
Yeah, it does.
But I'm like, damn, all it is like half naked bitches shaking
Well, they
their
just
ass.
try to get you, man. They'll throw like something up. Like I said, like if you watch a fish, like he said, you watch 10 seconds of a fishing video, they're gonna throw 10 more at you.
Right. Like if you hit a girl, like so if you like you just see like a small block of a girl and you hit that shit already knows what you were up to.
Yeah.
It goes, here's 3 more small little pictures of that shit.
Yeah, absolutely. So what? You just like Houston, or you got any ties to Houston, or you just like the shirt and the music?
I mean, I think Paul Wall.
Yeah.
I mean, he's my favorite rapper that sucks when he's the main rapper, but when he's the feature, he's fucking the shit.
Yeah,
You know,
it definitely kills all his features, man.
It's weird. Paul Wall's got a dope little story, like him and Chamillionaire, the way they came up and shit. It's like they were at one point, they were like the rap scene in Houston, but then they had their little falling out or whatever. And then, yeah.
Well,
Now they're homies again.
They're cool again. They never should have fell out.
Paul Wall was before he was a rapper, he was doing the teeth, right, with Johnny.
No, I think that was something that he kind of got into, like after, because he was rapping a long time before he actually got on that Still Tip. That was the first song that he was introduced to us, like here, like in South Carolina. I'm sure he had some songs in Houston. He was famous there, but when he got popping here, it was on that Still Tippin' shit. And then him and Johnny Dang got together, because Johnny Dang was doing the jewelry thing anyways.
Right.
And then they just took off with that shit, especially like with that song Grills and shit. Like,
With
they took off.
Nelly?
With Nelly on it, yeah. They
Yeah,
took
that
off
song
with
went
shit.
crazy. But I guess let's get to the real reason you're here, man. What got you into mixed martial arts, and where'd you? Are you from?
I'm from
South
Charleston,
Carolina?
South Carolina. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I guess it would start like so. I mean, dude, it goes back to like becoming from being a skateboarder right? So I was a skateboarder that listened to Cash Money, No Limit, then they had like a dude that was like kind of like for all the skaters didn't really dig that kind of shit. They were all like
Sage Francis.
Well, they like I don't even know what that
ICP.
is. They liked like punk rock, no effects and shit like that. And then I found a guy, and it was like Chad Muska, and he was carrying around a boombox, and that's when they kind of brought hip hop to skateboarding. So I kind of became pushed more into like the hip hop area, and then I went and like got in a bunch of fucking fights at school because I didn't realize I wasn't tough. You know, like I thought I was, you know, because I was able to hold down my shit for a while until you get to like a school like Middleton, and I got jumped a couple times, and I was like, well, fuck that, I ain't never getting jumped again. So I fucking decided to like thrust myself into fighting, and I was fighting all the time. So like I went from like being like an okay student to somebody who's just like drinking almost every night, going out partying around people that already dropped out of school and stuff. And so like about 18, we had a house, and we were like always wrestling in the front yard, slamming people. I mean, like WWF type shit, like, you know, like if you're out muscling somebody, you'd be like so you can fuck them up in the front yard. And I had a buddy that was like would choke me out. Like he was a wrestler and a blue belt, and he would choke me out, and I was like, fuck, I got it. Like everybody else was like, oh, fuck that shit, I don't want to even wrestle with him. Like, but then there's like videos, I think, of like 2001 of like I'm bleeding on my knees, and I have like t-shirts tied around my knees, and I'm like, because we're wrestling upstairs on the rug, you know, and like getting rug burn and shit. And I just grappled with him a ton, and I was like, I watched a couple of UFCs. I was like, fuck, this is what I'm gonna do. Yeah. And I was getting in trouble, getting arrested. I got arrested for fighting, and then I asked the judge if I could get my probation moved to Oregon because I want to become a Olympic wrestler. That's what I told him, and I had like a note from Matt Lindland that invited me to Team Quest, which I'm sure he was just like, yeah, sure, come pay me or something. Yeah. But they switched it out. They switched me out. I went all the way to Oregon. And I maybe drank 3 or 4 times more, got in trouble a little bit more out there. But as soon as I got serious, it was like just MMA 100%. Mm. Yeah.
You think that the discipline of it was what attracted you to it? Or you never really had a problem with discipline?
Do you think that was maybe the fact that you couldn't beat that one dude? And like, he was like, I'll be the one that beats him?
No, I think it was like I was interested in figuring out how he was fucking me up like that. I was never like of my group of friends, I was never like the hardest. Like, you know, I was never like I got rough, you know, like I got in a lot of fights. I got out of control a lot of times, but out of my friends, I wasn't like the big dog.
Yeah.
But he was like, he didn't even drink. This guy didn't drink. He was a state champion wrestler. Somehow he was friends with us. And he would come over sober and fuck us up. You know, like, or like somebody whoever wanted to fight in the front yard. And I think I think I just liked it. I don't know what the problem was. Is you get choked. Some people get choked and they're like, oh, stop this. I hate this shit. Some people get choked and they're like, all right, let's do that again. All right, let's do that again. Run that back. Let's do it again. You know, and that's pretty much how it became. And then discipline's probably my biggest problem.
Mine too.
Yeah, like
structure, discipline, way too lazy.
Yeah, I group things into huge tasks that I get done all at once. You know what I mean? Like, there's no like I should have woken up today and I should have done some of my website. I should have done some of this, but I'm going to shove it all into about 3 hours tonight. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, until it's
I can vouch. Yeah.
Yeah. Especially when it's like, oh, I have to get this done. Or I say something I'm going to do. That's the biggest thing. So for discipline, this is my trick. Say you're going to do something to somebody, like, hey, I'm going to get you 20 videos. You know, like, dude's like, I'll get you 20 videos by tonight, and then fucking don't do any of it, and then realize you're fucked. Yeah. And you got to like rush. Like, that's how we made the last DVD was like, hey, I need you to come here. I need to go over some more stuff. Created most of it and found most of the stuff that I'm playing with it, like within, I'd probably say 2 hours of us messing around. I mean, that's pretty much how it gets done, at least in my head.
Yeah.
Because I need to like be able to forget a whole bunch of things. Like I'm so forgetful. Like I just need to be able to like, oh fuck, I'm supposed to be doing this, and like, you know.
Yeah, I'm like that. Like once I'll say I got to do something, and it's like I can only focus on one thing, because if I have all these things out there, then none of them will get done. I've always said that, like, it's like I used this analogy before, where it's like I've got this cup every day full of water, you know what I'm saying? And then there's like 100 cups that I say like need this much, that much, this much, that much, and then before I know it, it's like I've poured a little bit into a lot of things, but nobody got full. You know what I'm saying? Like none of it got completely finished.
But you're close.
Yeah, but I can go to bed going, well, at least I didn't like leave this cup dry. You know what I'm saying? Like I put, and then like it sucks because a lot of times the cup that gets like a little drop is like your family, or like, which should be the most important cup, right. But you're spread so thin over all these other things that you're trying to accomplish, and then at the end of the day you lay down, you're like, damn, man, like I don't do nothing with my daughter,
my whole
kids.
Life. My whole life is me giving you just enough. Like, so I give you just enough stuff. Like, like, hey, you saw me do this. Hey, you saw that I taught this class. Hey, you saw that I did the books. Hey, I called this one person. And I'm like, as long as I do one thing, I'm still fucking doing it. I'm in the middle. It's a process.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I'm such a procrastinator. If I have like 2 or 3 things, if I have one thing to do, I'll procrastinate on it all day until it's crunch time, get it done. But if I have like 3 or 4 things, and even if they're small, like jovial things, it just seems so daunting to me that I just be like, fuck it, I just don't do any of it.
Yeah. Well, I see a lot of times people from the outside are like, how do you do all these things you do? I'm like, I don't even fucking know, man. To be honest with you, I don't. Like, it's literally like you said, it's like last minute, flying by the seat of my pants most of the time. You know what I mean? But gets done. You know what I mean? I think one of my problems, and I learned this like a few years back, was because I'm like so heavy on being a man of my word, that I've learned that my word carries so much weight that I got to be careful about like agreeing to things. You know what I'm saying? Like when people ask me like, hey, can you come to this thing or do that thing, or can you do this? Like I've got to like literally be like, no. You know what I'm saying?
Say no to everything.
Because once I say yes, that shit means something. You know, you get what I'm saying? And like I take pride in that.
Yeah.
So like I got to make sure that like, yeah, I want to do all these things, but I got to like compartmentalize and be like, okay, I've already said yes to 6 things this week, dude. 6 is the limit. You know what I'm saying? I can't.
No, I know exactly.
I'm sorry, you should have asked me 1, not 7. You know what I'm saying? Like you were the 7th person to ask me to do some shit this week.
I feel bad because
I only got 7 days.
People just stop asking me to do shit.
It happened
because I was like, dude. Because even like with the fighting shit, man, I told myself like probably 5 years ago, I was like, I think I'm gonna like start training, get something going on, man. But just time, man. I just don't have the fucking time. I mean, really, I do have the time, but I'm just not willing to take away from sitting on the couch for 3 hours to go and do it. You know what I mean,
Johnny been trying to get me to come for years and years, but like I told him, dude, I don't take my shoes off until I go to bed. Just the barefoot thing, dog. You can't do it. I can't do it.
I think I'd be all right.
I'd have to wrestle or something, dude. I just cannot be barefoot.
Because you mentioned like fighting with your friends, man. Me and my friend, his name's Greg. Shout out Greg. We was so small when we went into like high school that we was like, yo, man, we gotta toughen up. Like we can't be going like all these dudes is bigger than us. So we was walking home from school and they was like, you want to just fight each other and just practice on each other? Yeah. So we would literally go to my mom's house, move the couch out the way, and just be like, all right, 30 seconds, let's go. And we would just, everything we being so small, we weren't strikers. So we'd always end up just wrestling and grappling on the ground and shit. And I was like, man, I should probably take this a little bit more serious.
Bro, that shit after that cruise ship, like, when was that, last year?
It was July, yeah.
July of last year, we were on a cruise ship, and this dude comes to my door at like 2 a.m, banging on the door. He's all drunk, and I'm looking through the peephole. I'm like, dude, you're at the wrong room. He's like, and for whatever reason, my wife's like, I'm like, he's drunk, babe. She's like, just open the door and tell him, like, so that he can. And so, which was, I should never open a fucking door. Open the door. Dude's belligerent. Push him. Like I'm telling him, like, this ain't your room. Right. We've told this story in the pod, so I'll give you the short version. But I'm like, this ain't your room, whatever. He fucking rushes me into the room. So now we're fighting. And luckily, like, I've hung out with these boys my whole life, so like, I'm not a fighter by any means, but I know like what to do. And it's like, and he gave me his neck, so like, cause he rushed in like that, and he was probably like, I'm 6'2", he was probably like 5'8". So like, I grabbed his neck and like he pushed me this way, pushed me that way. We ended up going out into the hall, and as soon as like I got my footing and just lifted him up off his feet, and Raven, my wife's like, let him go, let him go. I'm like, not until he goes limp. You know what I'm saying? Like not until he goes limp. And I let him go. I thought I killed the kid, but after that I was like I should probably do some training, because the only reason I was able to defend myself, I've been drinking too, but luckily it had been like a few hours since I drank, so I was kind of sobered back out. But the only thing that helped me was that he was drunk and he was like 135, 40 pounds. And I just like, you know what I'm saying? Like my size alone was just too much for him to, that's what I'm thinking. I'm like, if I was a 125 fucking pound dude, this dude might have, and I didn't know how to fight.
Guy was
like
125 pounds and took 6 months to a year of jiu-jitsu, you might have been fucked.
Yeah, you know what I mean? And
that's
like,
the truth.
And that 100%, and that's what I'm thinking. I'm like, that's what kills me about drinking sometimes. Like, I don't mind drinking like in the comfort of my home, but even then, like, something pops off. Like, it's like, you know, like, you don't want to be drunk when some shit pops off, bro.
I remember
like,
when we
you think you
you
got
were
all
there.
that liquid courage, but
I think we were all there when we went out for your bachelor party, and we got into it with these bouncers. Right. Long story short, we end up with these 4 bouncers that had no more room for muscles. They were done. They had no reason to go to the gym anymore. They were done. These dudes were fucking huge. And they flexed on us out, and there was like 19 of us, and we ended up not fighting these guys, which is wise. When we walked away, one of our friends got hit by this little ass dude. It was Jamie. Jamie got hit by this little ass dude, and then everybody got all upset and shit, and Johnny was like, shit, you knew the dude that hit Jamie. He was like, shit, I'd rather fight them 4 big ass dudes than that little dude. That dude will fuck you up.
Yeah.
And he was smaller than me, but he was like, that dude will crawl up and down your ass.
There's something
like
to knowing just
man.
what to do. What gave you the I guess the boost or the want to teach?
I think I always knew that I took things differently than others. Like, so like watching, like being out in Oregon, we didn't really have like a head coach, right? We had guys that fought and guys that kind of showed you some stuff that they knew. There was no, especially out in Oregon, there was no like super good jiu-jitsu guys, but they're really good wrestlers, so they were going to put you on your ass. And like I wanted to be a striker, it just wasn't in the cards because everybody took me down, so I had to learn how to play off my back. And I think it's just I would watch fights differently than everybody else watched fights. So when I watched fights, I was like, you know, everybody else is like watching it for like who's winning, who's happening this, and I'm like looking at all the techniques, and I was writing down in my notebook from like, it's funny because there's a guy named on Twitter, somebody pushed me to him because he mentioned me in one of his podcasts. He's Jack Slack MMA, and I guess he mentioned my Darce Killer in one of his things, so I listened to it. But he said something that was funny because he said, well, talking about stomps and stuff like that, but people who made stomps, like how to pass guard stomps. And he mentioned Shogun Hua, who I think he fought, I want to say either Arona or he fought Alistair Overeem. I think it was going to be Arona. He went for like a stomp, but like instead of stomping, he kicked his leg over and like back fisted like a guard pass. And I have that still in my notes written down from Oregon. Like Shogun Hua, stomp, baseball slide, pass. And I was like, so I was doing stuff like that at the time.
Right.
And nobody was doing stuff like that. Like nobody that I was training with, everybody came in, we beat each other up, and I was the only one writing stuff down because there was nothing to learn off of.
Yeah.
You know, so I was just, and then finally the internet actually started becoming the internet. For a second, you know, like YouTube was working, but there was nothing on YouTube. But then there was this site called Subfighter, and Subfighter had a lot of highlights. But if they also had tons of instructionals by this dude that died. I want to say his name is Luke something, but he fought Andre Galvao and did really well in a MMA fight with him. But he had so many like techniques and moves. And I was just like fucking right. It was like, writing things down got crazy for me you know,
Yeah.
because I'm like having to write it down, then I'm having to try to figure out how to do it to somebody in the gym. But I had an hour ride in the it's not a subway, it's like a tram system. I'd just be reading it over and like visualizing it. And then so like when people try to tell me like, well, I don't remember this stuff or I don't know how, and I'm like, it's fucking because you don't like it enough. There's everything in the world. Like we just have our phone with us and we just like you can pop up the video right now, or you can like back then you couldn't do that shit. You couldn't pop up a video. You had to memorize what it looked like, write it down so you could remember it, and then visualize it the whole time through, and then try to make it happen in training.
Yeah.
And that was, and people go, well, how do I remember something? I said, well, write it down, visualize it, then visualize it at night before you go to sleep, over and over. I said, then when you wake up in the morning, read what you wrote, visualize it. When you get off work, you're about to go to the gym, sit in the parking lot, read it, and visualize it.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's just too much work for people now. You know, it's like, so maybe I was lucky before phones or whatever else, because if I had a phone, maybe I'd say, I'll just watch it right before I go to class. But no, I had already put in the mental reps of like, so just to talk about the brain, this will be, I'm not sure if this is interesting or not, but we'll talk about it.
Brains are pretty interesting.
Right.
Yeah.
So our brains make a connection, right? And in the very beginning, it's very thin, right? So the thing that you know and what you're trying to do is like a dirt road. So it travels slow and bumpy and you forget stuff on the way, right? The more you go back and forth on that road, the more your brain kind of understands that skill that you're like, let's just say like you're learning to teach your kid how to eat with a spoon. The kid's going to throw the spoon a fucking 1,000 times. You're just going to keep launching the spoon. Keep putting the spoon in the kid's hand, put it in the thing, put it to the mouth, and they somehow got to get better, or else they're going to never go to school. So it's almost like the more you visualize, your brain doesn't know that it's visualization other than the facts that it's missing sensory stuff. So if you can sense what it feels like I know what almost everything feels like in jiu-jitsu now. Like I can feel like people grabbing this. I feel like how my hips are going to move. So I can visualize that along with the technique that I'm visualizing. And that's how I come up with half of my stuff is I start to think about a technique and I start to just like re-enter the position over and over and over in my head. And then I'll like write it down if it seems like it's going somewhere. But at some point you're making that road into a super highway. Right. So 6 lane super highway. That's like perfection. That's like skill that let's say Venus and Serena Williams. Nobody's ever going to play like them unless you get as many reps as they get.
Right.
It's impossible. It's impossible for because the ball's moving too friggin' fast. But for them, because their brain's the super highway, that ball is not moving as fast for them. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like it's the same way in fighting and everything else. Like when you're in a really good spot striking, I've only had this happen to me a couple of times because I'm not a fantastic striker. But all of a sudden I see the punch coming. I'm like, shit, that's like slow. This is real slow. I'm like being able to like move, and I'm thinking about my counter. But right as the punch is coming, I'm like, oh, there's my uppercut. Boom, up, there's this. And it's like you're just like in the zone because you're in a super highway and they're on a dirt road. They're coming with dirt road. They're coming with dirt road punches, and you're coming from a super highway defense system. And you're like, man, I can. The windows start like when you see two people that don't know what they're doing. The windows are like doing this.
Yeah,
they're closing. There's opportunity, and now when you know what you're doing, the windows are closing slower.
Yeah,
you see it. Not that it's not still closing like that, but for you, it's doing that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, they say it should be like physically impossible for a baseball hitter to hit a like 100-mile-an-hour fastball.
Yeah,
they broke down. I seen something about it, and it was basically saying like, because like I'm not obviously I'm not a baseball player, but they say like when you're a batter, you can see the pitcher's hand coming up.
Yeah.
Like what? Oh, that's a curveball. That's a slider. That's a fastball. Whatever. But they're like, the time that it takes to see that for the ball to travel, for you to react, do all this, like all of this shit happens, and like on paper, they're like shouldn't be possible. But being that they have that super highway, they're seeing it happen, they can make it. They can fuck swing the bat inside.
So it's like striking too. So like I played baseball, so not a super high level, but I played baseball enough to get like where I was all star as a kid, like always getting all stars, and the thing is that you're already in. So when I'm fighting, I'm already loaded up, like. When I'm already like looking for a submission, my hips are kind of loaded. I'm already moving towards that thing. It's almost like the same thing with baseball. It's like you'll never see a baseball player who's not almost already in his swing.
Right.
So he's like already shifting and he's moving his hips because you got to be ready. Like, so for him, for us, that's a hard thing to do, to start loading our hips and everything be ready.
They get into that position whether they're going to swing or not.
Yeah, they have to.
You'll see it like in a game, like they'll do their little bouncing around thing. But as soon as that ball's coming, they all like get ready.
Yeah,
it's coming.
Everything's getting ready to torque, you know, and their window moves slower than us. So like we see that thing whip by them. They're seeing a little. They're getting a quarter of a like not even a quarter of a second. Smaller than that, but they're getting a little bit of like that time to see where the ball is coming, what direction, and that's gonna be too far outside. They've seen the ball, so they probably see like this, 2, 3, 4, like that. And they know that every ball that's coming from this direction is gonna be a ball, right? And every ball that comes from this direction is gonna be a slider. And every one that comes from this direction is gonna be a ball, and it's gonna be a strike. And so like they see this, or this, you know, and they know. That's something I'm swinging at, or that's not something I'm swinging at.
Yeah, they've already decided. Yeah. You ever heard about the 6-minute mile?
Is it, like talking about like in running?
Yeah, so like, this was like in the 30s or some shit like that, the 20s. Like it's within the last like 100 years. So one year. All these scientists had already said that it was impossible for a human being to run a mile in 6 minutes or less. You know what I'm saying? Like they had said, like up until this point, like the fastest mile was like 7:10 or something like that. You know what I mean? But this particular Olympics, like this dude just was like, I'm gonna run a sub 6 minute mile. You know, everybody thought he was crazy. I don't know. You gotta look into it. But he ends up running a 6 minute mile, and which was supposed to be impossible. You know what I mean? And then the following year in the Olympics, like 5 other people ran a sub 6 minute mile. And you're talking like never been done in recorded human history to one dude doing it one year, 6 people doing it the next year.
The first dude that did it, also, I think it's the guy who's the Indian. He's a Native American, but he doesn't have a Native American name. But he was like a brilliant guy in like every sport. Right, he didn't have the right shoes. He had 2 different shoes because the day that they gave him, somebody brought the wrong shoe. So he had one shoe that was left and a completely different shoe that was right. So like he had like 2 different shoes, and he ran the mile in less than 6 minutes.
Damn,
with the wrong shoes.
Yeah, but it's like it goes to show you like the human psyche. Like once somebody deems something, once you see somebody do something, you realize it's possible. Like, so then everybody can do it from that point on. You know, not everybody, but more people can do it because I don't think anybody was really pushing themselves to do a sub 6 minute mile when everybody's telling you it's impossible. Why would they even try to?
You're aiming for 6:01, 6:02.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, just get 6:01 and you're doing great. Mm-hmm. But I mean, that's a lot of things for talent too. So like, we look at like hot spots, right? So. Hot spots in baseball, hot spots in tennis. I don't know if this is even going to be true, but hot spots in rap, right? So
here we go.
You get the hot spot in Puerto Rico, where there was no Puerto Rican players, and then Roberto Clemente started playing and was one of the greatest players. Everybody from fucking Puerto Rico started doing amazing. They didn't have the right equipment. They didn't have the right gloves. They had, I think even Sammy Sosa showed like how to make like a piece of cardboard into a glove.
Yeah.
Right?
They're using like palm leaves.
Yeah, exactly.
Crazy.
Yeah, and so he's like...
It's like fighting too. Like all them guys from Dagestan right now. It's just like, I mean, one dude gets really good and then they're just like...
They know because they see somebody else do it from
Exactly.
their place. They're like, hey, they're from Puerto Rico. I'm from Puerto Rico. He's poor. I'm poor. I can do this too.
Yep.
And the same thing is there's a place out in Russia. I don't know where in Russia, but this one girl made it out. The entire place has no tennis rackets for anybody under 10 years old. The kids are playing tennis with each other with no rackets. They're just going back and forth pretending that they're hitting shots. And the same people have produced, that same little place has produced so much talent, right?
Yeah.
Out of that spot. And then, okay, so let's look at rap. There's no reason why Master P, C Murder, give me another good No Limit guy. Mystical. Then you got who? Manny Fresh, Juvenile, Lil Wayne, coming all out of the same projects.
Yeah.
Like that's like what? There's the same ward, I think, that they were all from.
Yep.
How is that even possible that all of them made it out? And the same thing goes with Big Boy, Outkast,
Dungeon Family, CeeLo Green,
Green, Killer Mike, all from the same high school.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like, it's not that that high school is just really good at making rappers. It's something in that area and that they were around each other.
Right.
And it developed something.
Yeah.
You know, it's like.
Yeah, it's just like you can't bottle up that light. Like it's like catching lightning in a bottle.
Yeah.
And it's weird how that does happen. I don't know. Like I'm not like huge like into like energies and stuff, but it's got to have something to do with it. Just like some kind of energy that just like.
Well, when
like
I get
a fucking
around
turbine.
people, like so it's funny. Like I'll fly out. Like I'm not around like the best guys in the world right now. I'm not always around the best guys in the world anyway, but I'll go to Vegas or I'll go to San Diego or I'll go to LA and I'll plug in with like guys at Extreme Couture, or I'll plug in with one of my buddies from Sweden he's coming actually down here to visit because his guy has a fight in Atlantic City and they're going to come here. The UFC, instead of going back home, he's going to come here for a week or two. When I get around them, you get more, I don't know, there's more inspired.
Yeah.
It's like when you're talking with somebody who's also, and you guys could be saying nothing at all that is like, that's mind bending, but it starts to turn into like ideas that just pop up, and because you're going off of somebody else who's really, really successful. And so when I get a message from him who's like, hey, why aren't we doing this shit? We should be getting this shit going. We shot a whole MMA instructional, 90 videos we've shot.
Damn.
It hasn't got put out. And he hits me up with the like, hey, what are you good? Why aren't we doing anything? And I'm like, fuck, he's right. We aren't doing anything, and I gotta get on my ass. Like, so now like we are running full speed ahead with the website, but I have to, because of who he is, right? Because I respect his time, I have to make sure that like I told him I was going to do this. He's a very accomplished person in his own right, so I'm going to respect his time, and I'm going to make sure my time is in there too. So it's almost like that. Like when you get around people that you respect their time, that you start to get your shit together, and you're not playing around.
Yeah, I mean that's him and I. Like we've always been rapping, and you know, like if I know that we're doing a song, say, and I know he's on the song, like
Yeah.
I'm not half stepping. You know what I'm saying? Like and like to go back to what you said earlier about the guy that you were wrestling with that was getting after you. It's like I never like to be around people that I could just dunk on. You know what I'm saying? Like I've never felt like there's no growth there. You know what I mean? It's the same like same with fighting. Like if you're going to a gym and you're working all the guys and you get to leave there and you get to go home and tell your buddies like, man, I rolled with 5 guys. I submitted this guy 3 times, and well, it sounds like you need a new gym. You know what I'm saying? Because you're not learning anything. You know what I'm saying? Like you're all you're doing is dunking on people all day, and at the end of the day, you're not growing from that. You know what I'm saying? It's good. Like it's good for you to be that guy sometimes. Sometimes it's good to be the best guy in the room if you're helping others learn. But if you're trying to grow, like me, like anytime I'm trying to grow, I don't go in like what you're talking about with the connections in the brain. Like you don't want to go somewhere that you don't want to always take the road that you've traveled a million times. You know what I'm saying? Because you're not gaining anything from that. It's like even when I drive places, sometimes like I got this weird thing where like if I'm going somewhere, I like to make circles. I don't like to go straight somewhere and come straight back. You know what I'm saying? So like I'll go like one way there, and then I'll be like, all right, like I like it to just make this circle. I like it to be like I'm gonna go this way, I'm gonna hit there, I'm gonna hit there, and then I'm gonna be back home. You know what I'm saying? And sometimes I like, obviously time constraints, but I try to like map my life out that way where it's like I'm always seeing and experiencing new things. You know what I'm saying? And like what he was talking about with the brain, I remember when my dad got in that accident, like a few years ago, my dad had a four-wheeling accident. He got a traumatic brain injury, and he was in a coma for a couple weeks. And then when he came out of it, like you were talking about the superhighways and stuff like that, the way the doctor explained it to me was like, your brain is like it's like telephone lines, right? And information can, when you have a normal brain without an injury, information can go smoothly, you know what I'm saying? But when the way my dad's was like, they said basically like it stretched all of his things out and then like compressed them real fast. So like it'd be like if you go outside and you see the power lines that are just hanging and all this, and like that's not optimum. There's a reason that they're straight, and you know what I'm saying? Like there's a science to it. He was like, your brain works that way. But it really hit me when my dad was like trying to relearn how to tell time, because he would look at like a standard clock, not a digital clock, and be like, he knew it, but he just couldn't go to the, like you said, from that dirt road. He couldn't get to the other side of the road to pull that information back. And he would get so frustrated because he's like, why are y'all even asking me this? And he was like, because you need to relearn it. And he's like, well, I already know how to tell time. It's like, well, tell us then, you know? And he's just like staring at it and getting mad. And it's like, damn, like, you don't realize how the brain, like you said, like it's all repetition, and like we take it for granted. Like for instance, my daughter's learning to tie her shoes right now, and I'll tie her shoe. Like I'm helping her. She's learned how to do it, but she just can't. She's getting frustrated because she can't get it where it won't. Like in 5 minutes, it's back unloosed. She's like, how do you get it tight? I'm like, well, babe, I've been tying my shoes for 31 fucking years, you know what I'm saying? Like I don't even think about it anymore. Like when's the last time you thought about like, let's loop, swoop, pull this thing? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
it's just like take it for granted. Yeah, you close your eyes. That's what I tried to tell her. I was like, you should start doing it with your eyes closed. She's like, why? I was like, because it's not about, it's literally, it's a motion. Like you're saying,
funny,
like
it's funny you bring that up.
It's a certain motion that you're doing. And I'm sure that like when you train your students, like you gotta like you're probably telling them like, you gotta like be able to internalize it and feel the way that
half of it's not the technique,
right?
Half of it's not the move that I'm going to pick out. It's the feeling that I feel right before that move happens, and then it relates, and it may be the technique, and I may think of the technique, but sometimes I'm just moving. I'm moving in it. Like you got to be free flowing, especially when you're going against guys that are good, or especially when you're going against people that like you don't have the time to think. You think. It slows down the reaction, so you can't think and react, right? So you have to, that's the window closing slow again, or closing too fast again, because you're thinking, and all of a sudden, it's like, well, you shouldn't have fucking thought about it. You should have took a good guy who has been training like they should have been, would have hopped on that armbar and finished it when it was out there. And rather than being like, I saw that armbar, I think I was doing something with him, and I was going to pass his guard. Like we were just like screwing around for like a video for them to take, and I sat him up, I sat him back out, and then I saw him sitting up, and I go, there's the pass, and by the time he came back up, the pass was gone, because I've been injured, I haven't been training hard, I haven't been like training my reflexes, and that pass like left, like he knew I should have passed him, I knew I should have passed him, but my body fucked up and I had to make a thought. I thought about it rather than reacting off of it. Right? So
how do you manage egos in the gym, where you don't have a lot of problems with that, or have you had it in the past? Because it just seems like a super
self-correcting in jiu-jitsu.
Yeah. Seems like a super masculine, like, you know, like it's like I could see.
So I come from MMA.
Yeah.
And most people from jiu-jitsu will hate to hear this, but God, they're so bitchy. They're so fucking girly about stuff. Because jiu-jitsu's become not about you, it's about me and my journey and how I'm going to take this. When before you joined jiu-jitsu, because you wanted to murder everybody in the room.
Yeah.
You wanted to be better than everybody, and you wanted to murder everybody in the room. Now people tell you for commerce, right? Because I'm in this job, that it's okay not to be the murderer in the room. It's okay if you just if it's you're finding enjoyment and you're enjoying yourself, right? And everybody enjoys themselves in different ways. I enjoy winning. I enjoy being dominant.
Yeah.
I enjoy highlighting on people. You know, I enjoy creating new things, and those are the things I enjoy. Other people might just enjoy sweating and trying to get an armbar today.
This isn't an aerobics class. This is goddamn combat.
But it's become so popularized that jiu-jitsu is about being tough, and it's not about being tough, and it's about being like open to everything. And they don't realize that like jiu-jitsu was like a bunch of roaming gangs. Like we're just like feral street dogs, and we were just like looking to go against somebody and represent our team. And like if we went out there to like a tournament, I remember I came back from Oregon, and I was gonna go against this guy who had like jumped gyms, but the gym I'm not even at that gym, you know, like I'm not even like I just know them, so they're letting me train there. And so I have a match, and he pops up. He's a brown belt, and I haven't even taken a gi class yet, but I'm probably about 4 years in, and I smoked his ass, and those motherfuckers loved it because they got the point. Like I represented their team that day. I don't represent their team at any other day. Yeah. But everybody was so pumped up about it because I shut that dude down, and that was a victory for their team. And like that's just how it was. It was like, and now if you want to like, and I see some people on the internet, and they're wanting to make these competition teams, and I think they're single, and that's fine. That's what you need to do is be single if you want to create a competition team. Like there's a guy named Donaher, and I don't believe he's ever been in a relationship. he's had relations, but I don't think he's ever been in a relationship. But he has the best guys in the world. He has the best student in the world. He's probably the greatest of all time as we can speak of it now. But to make money in a gym, you can't be super competitive. Almost, you can't be this gym because people that are super competitive, people that are really really good at stuff, people that are like me. I didn't pay money to train. You don't pay. You pay in other ways. You pay with your time. You pay with your this and that. But those people cost you more money than anybody else. They cost you more time. They cost you more money. They cost you everything. And you have to travel with them. MMA fighters. I don't know how much money I've spent traveling out of town so they can make $1,500, and I got to go into a hotel, buy my own hotel room, be there for the weekend away from my wife, and so that they can win a fight and hopefully go towards the UFC. You know what I mean? And it's like, if that's not what I like, I'm cool with jumping in and out of that, and I'm cool to create that. I understand how to do that, but I'm not going to do that with what I have right now. So like what I have right now, I have a small school, and I have kids programs. Those I love those. I have an adult boxing, an adult Muay Thai, adult Jiu-Jitsu program. Some people compete, some people don't. But the people that want to compete generally don't want to pay. They generally don't want to pay. They generally don't want to fucking listen to you. And they generally will fucking cut out at some point.
Right.
We're going to cut out? Yeah. I mean, they cut out. They just leave. All of a sudden, you put a ton of work into them. They're like, hey, man, I've been thinking a lot about this, and I think I'm going to quit. And you're like, fuck you.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like I missed, you know, how many weekends with my wife because we went to 30 fights together. Like, what do you mean? What are you talking about? Like,
yeah.
But it is what it is. Like, if I was good, that's why I'm looking to build this new facility. I'll probably have to buy something else before I buy that new facility and build it. because the only way to create that, like here, and make it sustainable to where I'm making money and paying for my family's stuff and not worrying about like living in my car, is saying, okay, here's a dorm, and I will allow these fighters to live in this place for free if they teach one class every other week, or one class a week, or two classes every week. They get a free board. All right, so it takes care of my students because they're teaching the students, but they also get to live amongst each other, and they also somehow you got to figure out the food in there or something else. So then people go, oh man, there's like 6 really good guys there. I want to go there. And so now the people that aren't getting those offers to room and board, they're at now they're 3 guys going, hey, do you want to get an apartment outside, like close near town? And so they show promise, and then you give those guys a little something. That's the way you got to build it. Either that, or you got to be in like a hotbed, which is San Diego. Everybody's in San Diego, so like you got my friend Johnny Tama, who's a no-gi world champion, teaches a kids class in some gym. The gym does well, but it's not like a huge gym. He just gets paid probably $100 for that class because it's San Diego, and does another $100 class somewhere else. That's not the money that we have here. That's not Charleston.
Yeah.
For some reason, Charleston's not it. It doesn't mean it can't be it, but there has to be a infusion of talent, and the only way that you can make an infusion of talent is making things really easy for people.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same way. Like, I mean, I can only speak from the hip hop side or rap side. It's the same kind of deal. It's just if you want to be a label or a management company, like it's hard because you either have to be making money, and that means that you might not have as much talent and be competitive, like you're saying,
right.
Or you gotta literally spend all your money and try to like push somebody that has the talent.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And it's hard. But also, like in Charleston, I don't know if this is probably or just not even in Charleston in hip hop, like all these like award shows and things like that, where do you ever run into like people that are like, oh, I'm a black belt, and like, how the fuck did you get that? You know what I'm saying? Or these people that are like, oh, I gotta
have a Charleston.
Yeah, it's like I got this, I got best hip hop of the year from the Charleston Joe Blow Awards, and you're like,
guy.
how the fuck
that shit don't carry no
merit. Who gave
merit.
you this award? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, are these real artists? Are these real rappers? Are these real people in the industry that are giving you these things? Does that happen with belts as well? Like, people just yeah.
There's an interesting thing that I feel now, and it comes from a money making situation too. Because if they weren't making money, I wouldn't care. Right, because they're taking money from me because that's my shit. Like,
right.
Like I don't look at it like in a cultural like, well, we're all friends here. We're gonna share. I'm like, I don't fucking share.
Yeah.
Like, like I don't share my toys. I don't share my fucking thoughts. I don't share this shit. People that I'm cool with, they get it. They'll get it from me. People I'm not cool with, they're just gonna have to figure it out on their own. But like, I was always one of the best in everything I did. So I was really good at MMA. I got picked up and put onto big teams, right? So like I've been around like some of the biggest names. Evan Tanner was my coach. He picked me up. Then I when Zion's Training Center was big, I was around those guys, and that was with like Mike Pyle, and they had
Is that the guy that passed away in the desert?
Yeah, Evan Tanner.
Yeah, okay.
That was my
that
was my real good friend, and he ended up like we had a falling out right before he passed away.
Oh,
it was
sorry.
It was mainly me being a punk kid, but he was also a drunk, so it was like, you put a 22-year-old kid, a 22-year-old kid with a guy who's 35, whose marriage just fell fucking apart. And he's like drinking all the fucking time. It's just, he's like, you want to go here? And we're like, fuck, okay, like, yeah, let's do this. I'll
Sounds
follow
a little
you.
tumultuous.
It's a Rick and Morty type situation.
Right.
Like he's fucking Rick, I'm Morty, and I'm at some point Morty's got to say fucking chill the fuck out, right? But like I had 8 years of jiu-jitsu before I did MMA. So I hurt my neck. I was supposed to go on The Ultimate Fighter. I hurt my neck. My arm did not move. Like I couldn't lift a jug of water, right? And I was like, fuck. I lost that opportunity. I said, okay, I'm going to get an neck surgery. I'll be right back. Right? I had to wait an entire year because that's what they made me do. So I was doing gi jiu-jitsu while that was happening with like a terrible neck and like my arm not working. And I then had the surgery. That didn't work and I had another surgery. But during that time, like even though like I went to like every single belt I ever touched, there was nobody in that belt class or that was around me. There was nobody like, you know, like there were other guys, there were black belts that were really good. There were some brown belts that were really good. But I felt like if you're going to point to somebody and be like, well, who should I roll? Like if I'm rolling, like who should this guy roll with if he wants to get fucking embarrassed? You're going to give him to me. Right? Because that's what I'm going to do. It doesn't matter if it's that top team. It doesn't matter if this guy's coming from, like, I don't know how many Brazilians I had come from my neck at American Top Team because I'm a black belt gringo teaching a class that is Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and they think, and also I talk a little bit of shit and stuff like that. But like these guys, like I would whoop on one of these dudes and they would be like, oh man, like the match is over and they'd be like, oh, my finger's fucked up. And I'm like, yeah, I had just 6 weeks ago this neck surgery.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? I'm like, fucking shut up. But I always thought instructors, teachers, people that had stuff to share should have at least been exceptional in the class.
Agree.
Yes.
And now you have people that are just like, they get their belt. They're in their 40s. They have a little bit of money so that they can buy themselves an academy that they can run the rules with and they can like kind of walk around and like, look at us fucking now. And it's kind of a fucking joke.
I got a question. How does one achieve a belt?
Depends. I mean,
well, I'll make a really stupid comparison. Karate, right? I don't know, like my friend used to take karate. I used to go watch him do it, and like to earn a belt, you basically had to like learn a dance. It was like a choreographed, like maybe I'm fucking this up. Maybe if somebody.
No, you're right.
It's
It's a pignon. First pignon,
some
second
shit
pignon.
like that. Yeah,
I still remember the first.
You have to learn, like you go from white to okay. If you can do this one thing, do this little routine, boom. Okay, you're a blue belt. If you learn another routine, boom, boom, boom. But I seriously doubt it's that corny in jiu-jitsu. I imagine you have to earn it. But how do you
so
earn
like even the people that are, I believe, that are hot garbage are relatively very good compared to people that don't know any grappling, right? But it's so like, let's say like I see this guy, like I don't give out blue belts very easily. Like,
well, I guess that's what I'm asking. Is it by the instructor's discretion?
Yeah.
Okay.
But there's a certain type of person that I can see who's a blue belt and who's a white belt. Like I can see the choices that they make. I can see how they react to certain things that are happening in them. Like if a roll's going on, I know pretty much exactly almost everything that's happening in the roll. For the most part, like at high levels, sometimes things happen really, really quickly. But I at least understood why it happened. And then you look at somebody else's roll, and you look at two blue belts rolling, and you know exactly what's going on because you know everything that they know. So you almost see the things that they like that they see in their brain, or you can actually just call it out, and if they listen, they'll actually make it happen while you say you're like, you know, backstep, and then just backstep, and then you're like, fuck, of course, that's what you should have done a second ago
without me telling
you. But you can kind of see the choices that they make in the flow of their movements and how they control their body and how they control somebody else's body and the choices that they make. People that make rash choices usually aren't great at jiu-jitsu because doing something rash, you have to be good enough to fuck up and still be in a better position than your opponent, right? So like people, it used to be a little bit different for me because I didn't think about points. I didn't think about any of that kind of stuff. I just thought like flying triangles, this, that, you know. But if you're just jumping flying triangles and you're just hitting the ground and you're not finishing any of them, and then you're putting yourself in a position where the person passes your guard, you don't know what you're doing because you're giving, like, even if you hit 2 or 3 of those flying triangles, right? Which means like you're jumping in the air and catching a submission with your legs. Like you're choking them with your legs by jumping in the air.
Okay.
Right? So it's not a super hard thing to do. It's a little bit of athleticism. It takes like a little bit of like reps. But if that's your choice and you fail at that choice, you better be damn good on your off your back. You
I was
better
gonna say,
sweep
so the
them right away.
consequences were probably pretty bad if you fucked that up.
Well, if you fuck it up, you should be good enough to still sweep him, submit him right away after that.
Okay.
Because you made a choice to do something like that. Your choice shouldn't have been flying triangle. Now the guy's better than you and he passes your guard and smashes you. That was an inefficient choice. And you should know that because, like, your whole job is to be in a dominant position throughout the whole fight.
Okay.
And if you can't be in a dominant position, if you can't be the one who is attacking the entire time, you better be on your P's and Q's and not giving away too much. Like, there's always going to be guys that are better than us. There's always going to be guys that who are like an athlete. Like right now, I would consider myself nowhere near world level of competition. I'm not an athlete. I get out of breath fucking showing like 3 or 4 techniques. My repetition's low. Could I get to that position? Probably, but at the very top, my body would break. You know, it's like I think I could get myself back into the position where where I could feel like I would compete with the best in the world, but my body's so fucked up that I don't think it could handle getting myself back there again. Right. Otherwise, I might try.
Yeah, your body's probably helping you out a little.
Yeah, my body's going like, "Hey, chill, dude. Like right now, you're sitting in a chair and your neck hurts.
Yeah,
you chill out."
Well, I would consider myself like the term casual gets thrown around a lot this day and age, in which I would put myself in that category when it comes to fighting, even though like I've watched probably more than a lot of people who are in the fight game. Yeah. But one thing that I've always loved about MMA is what you were just talking about, is like decisions have consequences, and like, and that's what, like, fighters that I fall in love with are the ones that fight within their own self. They understand like where they are, you know what I'm saying? And like you'll see fighters that have no business beating this other fighter, and it's just simply because of what you're talking about, where they don't go for the flying triangle. They don't try to stand up with this guy and trade blows, even though that's what the crowd wants, and that's what they're fighting within themselves. You know what I'm saying? And that's what I like about it, is like one little mistake. These guys are so high level now, because back in the day, like, they just come out, you know, you see Chuck Liddell just go out there and just, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
just pound on dude.
He's like, if your chin better be as strong as mine, because we going at it, you know? And like, now it's just like little tiny little micro decisions that you made where, like, you know, you threw this right when you should have, checked with a kick, and like, now you're fucked. You know what I'm saying? You threw the wrong right. Now you got uppercut. Now you're on your back. Now what are you going to do? You know what I'm saying? And like, yeah, it's just so cool to see, man. Like, it was like, who beat George St. Pierre? Was it Matt Serra?
Yeah.
Yeah, and like, he had no business beating GSP at this time. GSP is like at the height of his journey.
He's godlike.
He's godlike at this point, and this dude comes in and just like, you ever listen to Matt Serra? Mm-hmm. Dude, this dude's hilarious, man. He's one of my favorite people outside of just like his fighting. But if you listen to him on like podcasts or talking, he's like straight. He's a New Yorker, I think.
I have heard it. You told me
he's like busting balls, and you know,
you told me to listen to him on one of Rogan's things.
Yeah, he's a damn riot, but like I said, like, he came in and was just like, you know, I'm gonna fight within Matt Serra's realm. You know what I mean? Like,
that was the only way he could have won.
Right.
Was by knockout, and GSP fucked around and found out.
Yeah.
Like that's what.
Is Johnny as good as he says he is?
Johnny could be really good. Johnny has. Listen, I don't know what Johnny's.
I'm just kidding. He doesn't walk around bragging or nothing.
No, he's.
I'm my own enemy.
He's his own enemy. I think he if he liked it more, he likes it. He don't like it like I like it. He doesn't he doesn't have the
You gotta quit
he doesn't have
coughing.
the, he doesn't have the no, he doesn't have the responsibility
quit.
the responsibility thrust on him to be better than anybody else in the room
Yeah.
and know anything more than anybody else in the room. So he's like he gets to fuck a lot of guys up and have good moments, and then it just takes like the commitment to being like nobody in this fucking room is going to be better than me. Nobody. And when I say that and I'm going to do it, nobody's going to ever pass my guard. Nobody's going to
fucking
sweep
mean
me.
it. Yeah.
Nobody's going to do anything to me. I went forever. I went my entire brown belt. Right. So the thing was a year I had my brown belt for. And there's two guys that I'll give credit that really, and I still watch today. And they're very helpful to me because they're high level guys. The Hatcher brothers. They swept and submitted me, but nobody else that was a brown belt or because they were at their brown belt, but they could have been black belts at the time that they're competing at a high level at brown, which means that you are already a high level black belt, right? Because if you're competing at brown high level, that means like going to like the finals and stuff like that. That means that like compared to every other black belt, you're probably in the top 10% already.
Yeah.
So I didn't let anybody sweep me, pass my guard, or submit me. And that was just how I was going to like. I probably held myself back a little bit because I didn't explore more, and I kept things inside of a box. But I wanted to make a point to everybody that there was like, you're not going to get a point off me. Like you're not going to get a point. You're not going to get a pass. You're not going to get a submission. It's just not going to happen with me. Like I don't care how good you are.
Yeah.
And so
that's how I am with rap.
I feel the same way.
Yeah, you ain't fucking with me, bro. I do this, you know.
Yeah, and so if he did that, he would be. He's got the capacity for it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like when we go through moves and we talk about moves and we look at things, his brain's operating on that same capacity to find things, to make things, you know.
It seems like you take it in a like it sounds like you're very meticulous and technical, but creative at the same time. I think that's big in jiu-jitsu from what I see.
That's something you would have to be. I mean, I'm not a fighter.
Yeah, but I think like it's kind of like
when everybody
in,
knows the same shit, you got to think outside the box.
Yeah, but I think a lot of times people just like they get so focused on the technicality and like if I do this thing then it's, you know what I mean, and it's just like
not how
you got to be creative where it's like you're fighting some guy and like he's supposed to right now he's supposed to like pass your guard, but he didn't. So now what the fuck you gonna do if you're so technical and stuck on
that's
the way things
one of the
should
hardest
be.
things to tell like my MMA fighters is that I can't tell you what to choose. I choose I'll go through these different things and I'll hit a takedown, I'll come down with a hammer fist, the guy will come up, then I'll throw a knee, and it's not that I'm thinking of like these are the things to do. My brain has gotten accustomed to allowing myself to see what's there and do, right? So it's like you make things up in mid moments. And if you just haven't trained enough and you also don't explore enough and like allow yourself to be in these positions a million times where you have like, a million times it's happened like this, but none of them have been exactly the same.
Right.
So, but every situation, like you just all of a sudden you hit them, you see where their head is, and you feel that your left hand is free, and your left hand just comes up with an uppercut. It's just that's what goes, and then you see the guy kind of roll, and you're like, oh shit, I can throw a 2, but he's rolling on this 2. This fucking left hook is gonna hit him again, and you bam, and it's in those. And it's like, and that's in 0.3 seconds.
Yeah.
So I knew that I took him down. He's starting to get up. I knew that my hand was free. My uppercut came. I went to hit him with this, but I see his hand coming, and then my hook comes, and it's like you just have to have done this enough to where your choices are not so robotic of like like that. It's got to be something where like, and I used to, and shout out to the Diaz brothers, after watching Nick fight BJ Penn, I started getting like when my striking was kind of coming along, I was like, I'm not a great striker. I think the Diaz brothers are great strikers, but they're not like top like technical level.
Yeah.
But they just started their combinations, so that like they'll start moving through, and their combinations are kind of already coming, and they're already rolling, and then they let go whatever they see is there. So they're kind of like in a combination, like with the feint, they're moving forward like this, and then they let that one go, and then they let that one go, and then they start picking at people, and it's like none of them are like super hard, but they're able to find the holes faster than everybody else because they're already in the stance, or they're already in the wind up, and there's too many guys that are throwing punches that they're like, I need this one, and if this one lands, this one comes, rather than going like, if this one lands, maybe I'm just gonna double it or triple it. You know what I mean? Like they're not locked in on a pad position of like how they hit. Sometimes hitting pads is perfect because it happens just like that. Mm-hmm. Right? Bop, 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 bop. It happens just like that. Sometimes hitting pads is terrible because the same way that the guy who's holding pads knows what to do, you felt that combination 1,000 times, and you're just like, pop, 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 pop. And then you're like, I'm like, that's, your body just reacted to it, felt punch, 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 and saw it. Rather than seeing the punch, and there may have been like a stagger, and you're like, you misread it, and then you fucking got the uppercut right down the middle. It's, you have to be able to do improv on a turn of a dime.
Yeah.
And I try to tell people, this is how you get knockouts. I try to tell my fighters, this is how you finish people. You don't finish people with what they think is coming. You finish them with something they had no idea that was coming, and you had no idea it was coming until you fucking chose it.
You're right.
All right? So you go like, I see this guy like standing up for a second, and all of a sudden your knee's gone. Like, if we look at like Demetrius Johnson knocking out the Adriano Moraes. Mm-hmm. So he got knocked out with a flying knee. DJ got knocked out against the cage. He knocked out Adriano Moraes with the same exact technique from a completely different scramble. And there's no way that either one of those guys that threw that knee knew they were throwing that knee a quarter of a millisecond before they did it. It was a reactionary thing. They saw it and let it go. And that's how good they are at reactions.
Yeah, that's it.
It's like driving a car too, right? Like,
right. Yeah. You don't know if somebody's gonna come over on your lane. You gotta be.
The hardest thing to teach.
You gotta be ready. I was gonna ask you. I know we're probably close to the hour. But we always ask. We never had a fighter here or somebody definitely as esteemed as you. You know, like it was funny when Johnny sent me. He was like, you know, some of your accolades or whatever, and we're Googling and shit, and I'm like, I don't know if I'm gonna feel safer or scared with this motherfucker in the room with me, but we always ask rappers and musicians and stuff like who their favorites or their goats, but I'd like to know like who's your favorite fighter of all time, not necessarily who you might think of as like has the best or the best career, and then like who do you think is the greatest fighter of all time, and also who's a fighter that like made you fall in love with the sport. Doesn't have to be your favorite or the best,
right.
But
so there's too many answers to a lot of those. I would say there's going to be a name that nobody's heard of.
I expected that.
Joachim Hansen is my favorite fighter of all time. I would travel to Denmark or wherever he's from just to fucking shake his hand. He's the man. He's pure violence. He's the first guy that put everything together so nicely. He put together jiu-jitsu with his striking, with his Muay Thai, with just his wrestling. He was launching guys on their shoulders. I mean, he was just everything, and had just a violent piece of him in there. And like you just need, like as a fan of violence, you want to be able to relate to the person that's fucking them up. And so a lot of the guys now are very robotic. You know, and it has to be sometimes because, like you said, it has to be technical. Like some of these guys have to be so technical because the other guy's so technical that it becomes like in this little box. Yeah. Like I love watching right now Justin Gaethje fight, but he's cleaning up everything, which is different than who he was. You know, like where he was like kicking people in the legs and they were like dead legging, like, you know, with calf kicks and like chasing him down with punches because he was starting to get knocked out. When he fought Poirier, that was probably the most like disciplined and tight I've ever seen him.
Yeah, he was polished.
Yeah, and he just wrecked him. And I think he's going to wreck Max Holloway because I think Max Holloway is just too small. And also, Max Holloway doesn't like getting kicked in the leg. So
I wouldn't either with them skinny ass legs.
And then, I mean, it was always Nick Diaz. I remember watching him fight Robbie Lawler in the first fight. Damn, I watched that live on ESPN.
I just watched that a couple months ago.
Maybe it wasn't on ESPN. No, he fought a different guy. He fought I want to say Aaron Riley. He fought Aaron Riley or something. He knocked him out. But then he fought Robbie, and Robbie was like the shit. And he just like, it just was fun. Just watching him like antagonize, like fucking go out there, like, and then watching his, I mean, like I'll always say Nick is better than Nate. I think Nick was always more exciting than Nate. Nate's got a fun part of him, but like nothing's like, I think if Nick would have fought Connor or Nick would have fought George Masvidal or any of those, it would have been like one and done.
Yeah.
But these guys are wild. You know, these guys are disciplined, but not disciplined. So they, you know, you miss a lot of the stuff. So I would say Diaz. It was always like before, like the Diaz brothers were Diaz brothers. Those were the guys that was like, that's what that I can relate to that
scrappy.
Yeah, I can relate to, you know, the it's not the smartest way to fight, but I can relate to wanting to fight like that. And then you say greatest of all time is really hard because everybody's changing all the time. Mm-hmm. So it's like saying Barry Sanders is the greatest of all time. He is. Compared to Emmitt Smith, he's right there. You look at Marshawn Lynch, he's there. Like who does the greatest runs?
Yeah.
Who knows? Because it's a different human being doing something different to different people all the time, and you're just like continually blown away. But I would say the person who did the most with their career would be probably George St. Pierre. Did the most with his career, coming back, beating Michael Bisping. I don't think it was a huge thing because Bisping wasn't. I didn't think it was like if he would have come back and fought Anderson Silva, that would have been something. Mm-hmm. So you're always going to have the guys who go, well, who are the guys? It's going to be Anderson Silva right now. You can't say that the greatest of all time is, what's the black guy's name? Adesanya. Yeah, he's not the greatest. Like Adesanya didn't do to people what Anderson
a
Silva
lot of people
did.
say John Jones.
Okay, there you go.
He's had some.
John Jones.
I think without him being like suspended so many times, just like Nick Diaz, like
he's the GOAT.
Yeah.
So correct me. John Jones being active right now, as active as he even being active when he was there before, is the GOAT because he gets active through all of these different champions that budded up and rised up, right?
And he's the scariest man. Like nobody wants to fight
So,
him. Like
he went through all those guys. He went through
every era.
He went through DC when DC was dangerous. He went through
Shogun.
Shogun when Shogun was dangerous. Lyoto Machida when Lyoto Machida was like could be the greatest of all time. He went through, and now he's at the heavyweight. You know, doing that kind of stuff. Or he fought Gustafsson and then then everybody's like, well, Gustafsson will beat him this time, and he wipes the floor with him that time. You know, so it's like,
dude's a damn beast.
Yeah.
So what's we'll end it on this. What's something that translates from fighting to life, like a quote or a principle, something that you would leave everybody with, something that maybe you tell your fighters or. You know what I mean? Like
maybe your kids.
Yeah, just something that translates.
I wouldn't tell my kids this, but I'd take a Marshawn Lynch quote, and I'd say it to everybody: "Run through a motherfucker's face."
Yes.
Right, and that's the quote I always go through. It's like just do it over and over and over and over and over and over and over. It's like, and sooner or later, people aren't going to want that. It's like you got to do that with life. You got to do that with people with a job situation, or you got to do that with fighting, or you got to do that with showing up on time and get something that you want in life. is like you just gotta fucking show up, and it doesn't matter how you feel that day. It doesn't matter if your neck hurts. It doesn't matter if you feel like you can't walk. Nobody cares. You got to show up every day and be in their face, because the day that you're not in their face, they fucking is the day that was the opportunity. You know, like, so I always said yes to everything. My coaches, I mean, half of the things I have in my life are because coaches asked me to do something. It was free, and I said, okay, I'll do it. You know, like, pick somebody up, go teach a private for free, go do this, go do that. And they all ended up being wins for me in the end, because I fucking showed up and I knew that what I wanted.
Yeah.
And I wanted it more than everybody else.
We talked about that extensively on this podcast before, is just taking opportunities, man, and especially when it's somebody that you know has the credentials and that you respect, and they're asking you to do something, no matter how small, dude, that small thing can turn into a much bigger thing. So we appreciate your time.
Man.
What's the name of your gym?
Black Label Martial Arts.
Black Label Martial Arts. So if you're looking to not be a pussy anymore, you want to run through a motherfucker's face and get at Malachy. It's Malachy Friedman. I pronounced that correctly?
It was good enough.
Good enough. All right. All right. I hope so. But anyways, yeah, get at him. I'll have his logo attached to the front and the end of this episode, as well as I'll tag him and everything, so that if you're interested in learning some jiu-jitsu, or you want your kids to learn how to not be bullied at school, or just have confidence in themselves and learn some discipline, then I'm sure he can help you with all of those things. Think harder, work smarter. If you want it to grow, just add water. Cousin Sal, Malachy, it's the water pot. Peace.
Yeah.
She'll be there, a little dust on the bottom, another melody in my head, a little dust on the bottom, another melody in my head. My life a lot of pain that I don't show, loved ones turn to people that I don't know. I leave if I know I won't grow. Memory lane's a place that I just don't go. But what's the difference? We all die one day and love's a prison. I love you, if I didn't it wouldn't hurt, like fuck the miss you. That's another issue, another birthday, another box of tissue. Vibing with the bottle like I'm talking with you. Wonder if you miss talking to me. I see you living, toxic but free. If you talking, I bet the topic is me. How I'm wrong for being all I could be. I guess it's my fault, failure's not an option for me, right?